This is What Now with AI.
I'm Tom, and I'm an AI skeptic.
And I'm MJ, and I'm an AI realist.
Okay, MJ, I came across this piece of news that I think is pretty interesting. It is about an AI bot that summarizes scholars' research and releasing them as podcast episodes, but a lot of scholars are very unhappy with this service.
Yeah, I saw that too. It is a service that was created by academia.edu, which a lot of scholars have their work on. I have my work on it, and I happened to get one of these emails that said, "Oh, we've turned your into a podcast." Yeah, it wasn't that good.
I've used academia.edu as a student, of course, read journal articles, writing term papers and stuff like that.
I haven't signed up for a paid subscription.
Right.
So it offered this. This is something I could do with AI anytime.
Mm-hmm.
I can, especially now, all the models that have come out that can do audio.
I agree with you because anyone can just use Notebook LM to produce a similar kind of podcast episode on anything. It doesn't even have to be a research article. It can be like a news article, it can be text message even. You can turn it into a podcast easily. Now, I'm going to read you some of the comments from other scholars and I'll see what your reaction. Okay. So one professor said, "Wait a minute, you're putting words into my mouth."
Oh, heaven forbid.
And then some other scholars said, it's offensive, it's borderline impersonation / plagiarism.
Faculty are worried about this. I've heard it come up in different situations where they're really worried about plagiarism and they're really worried about things not being in their own voices. And I don't know, if somebody wrote a description of what it is that I wrote instead of saying it, would I be as upset? Probably not. I mean, I'd be thrilled. It's like, oh, look, they're reading it and they're trying to understand it. So I think it has more to do with the fact that it's a machine and not a person.
I agree, because I've talked to a few like MSU people here who are enthusiastic about AI, and they think the backlash against this tool is a little bit unwarranted, uncalled for. And I can see their point because, to be honest, like an average research article is read by like 5 people on average.
No, it's so sad.
Including your parents. And like you would have to really convince me if you want me to read a 40-page journal article. Like some people is like, why are they taking a 40-page journal articles into a 5-minute podcast? And I'm like, you couldn't get me to read a 40-page journal article. And I think it's a good way to get people interested in your work. Like, I may not be in your field. You have to get the outsider to be interested in the work that you've done, in the findings. And it's kind of like writing an abstract, right? You're trying to get people
I love that.
on your work.
Yeah. And what I really like about that is, why aren't we doing this ourselves?
Right.
It would not take very long to ask an AI tool to do for me what it is that academia.edu is doing. And then I can post that myself.
Yeah.
I'm MJ Jackson, and I approve of this summary.
Yeah, very right. So I guess that some people are concerned about like whether it will hallucinate and say things about the research that was actually not stated in the original research. I think there was certainly that concern in this article. I think the problem is they released this feature. They've done a lot of work. They have already produced.
Who knows if they've done a lot of work? That's what I'm thinking. Somebody in the marketing department said, "Hey, we could use this," and somebody else said, "Yeah, I'll just flip this button."
Right. So they need to do better user experience research studies, basically, like collecting feedback from the faculty. Obviously, there are a bunch of people who are unhappy about it.
The key takeaway for me is, can this make our work accessible to more people?
Yes, I think that's right. It's kind of like presenting at a conference, like poster session.
Yes.
You need to make it interesting so that people will stop by your poster and actually hear about your findings, right?
That's right.
So AI-generated podcasts can do that for you because, like I said, very few people will actually read full-length research articles nowadays.
What you're bringing up is an important topic more generally. And it makes me think of when you read a journal article online, ProQuest, maybe others, when you're looking at the journal article in your browser, it will have on the side the AI's summary of it right there.
Right.
So it's getting integrated into the forms that we're already using.
Even for just Google search, they have the AIs enabled. They can summarize research findings for you. And I think that's pretty helpful for an average Joe that is not into academia.
So one of the things that I came across this week is Waymo pushing its world building capabilities. So what this is, we talked in the last episode about taking data that isn't text data and using AI to construct something new out of it. And what Waymo is doing is taking, say, satellite images or their own driving images and adding in information that they know from, say, weather science or what we know about climate or what we know about driving conditions and light, and putting them all together into building what they call world model. They've built their model on Genie 3. Here's one of the things they claim. By leveraging Genie's immense world knowledge, it can simulate exceedingly rare events, from a tornado to a casual encounter with an elephant, that are almost impossible to capture at scale in reality. It allows them to have simulations with simple language prompts, but then the output is showing a video of what actually would be happening.
I think AI has come so far to learn from the data it has. I remember when I was in grad school, I met someone who worked in Tesla back in 2016. And back in the days, AI would have difficulty distinguishing a plastic bag from a human. So let's say if you're driving on a road and a thin plastic bag just flow past your car, humans, we know that what if it brushes against a hood? It doesn't matter. But for AI, it just doesn't know how to react because it can't tell plastic bag from an actual human body. So, and now come to this fully automated scene where we have Tesla that can drive long distance without human supervision, and Waymo. I think that's really impressive, and that's like the way forward.
One of the things that strikes me is how it compares to what we were just talking about with summarizing articles, is that one use of AI is to describe what already exists. And then this one is to actually use it to project what doesn't exist, to imagine and to show us what it would be like if we were in that kind of situation.
So I came across this article about an edtech tool called Sway. So basically it is a tool that gets students to debate each other virtually, but in a civil manner. It is currently being used at 78 colleges and a handful of high schools, designed by 2 scholars who study disagreement. And basically an example would be, in a discussion about a very controversial topic, if you were to type something accusing the other side about their opinion, Sway will tell you to address your partner's reasoning instead of speculating on their motives. It also asks guiding questions, trying to refocus argument away from what it interprets as accusations and slogans. How do we attack others' logics and argument rather than emotions and things like that? I could see a lot of usage in higher education.
I love that this is getting some uptake, because I think that this is such an important skill for us to help students develop. And what I really like about this is that it gives intervention in the conversation itself instead of afterwards. So it can help the participants who are debating with one another to stay on track and to manage maybe the tone, to have options for how it is that you can discuss something in a reasonable way. So I really liked this. Did you see who the creators were?
No.
They're philosophy PhDs. When we come across AI tools, we often think that the people who have built them are techies, or we think that the AI is able to do this on their own. And we forget that AI is a tool.
Yeah.
We forget that it's a machine.
You're right. So AI is a medium, not an intervention. And this tool is an intervention.
That's right.
And actually, I want to bring up a capstone project I came across because, when I was in grad school, ChatGPT just came out, and I have a classmate from grad school who tried to do something similar. She was trying to develop like a chatbot that would make people debate with people who are politically opposite from you, and trying to see if we pull you more towards the center. And I think her finding is the tool wasn't really effective in changing their minds. So I'll be very interested to see if this tool is effective empirically.
You could build this tool right now.
Yeah.
I can show you how to build this tool. They took a corpus of arguments
Yeah.
And all they did was they coded them as positive or negative or constructive and not constructive. And that's something that we do all the time in social science.
Yep.
This is a straightforward social science methodology. And the outcome of it is then used as the prompts,
Yeah.
right? The instructions that tells AI how to interpret what the user puts in. And I really think that we need to do this more as subject matter experts. So I love the fact that it was philosophers that put this together, because there aren't enough social scientists and humanists who are involved in creating the data that is used to train models. And we can create tools like this, and you don't even know that it's there, but it helps your response be better.
Yeah. I was in the MSU museum a few weeks ago, and there's actually an exhibit right now that features a similar concept. The creator basically trained a couple of AI personas based on YouTube personalities, downloading their transcripts, trying to analyze the kind of vocabulary that they use to construct arguments. And then as visitors, you can enter a question. For example, is hot dog a sandwich? And then they will actually just generate the responses based on these personas. And then afterwards, the AI will evaluate which argument is the strongest, is the most logical. I think that's interesting as a visitor because you can just enter any question that you want.
The next step that I would love to see us develop is taking that material that we put in to create those personas and coding it, putting in our expertise. So going back to the story that we started with, not only putting in our materials into creating a podcast, but we also annotate it. We also code elements of it and say, this is my main claim. This is the evidence. We start creating our own work that's annotated, ready for AI to ingest it and
Right.
AI responses.
I think that this tool is very interesting. And again, I would like to see if it actually works. It's effective in helping students create more effective arguments, because I think that's a very important skills to have. And I think we both agree on that.
We definitely agree on that. We as educators should be holding these tools accountable and say to them, show us your data set that you trained this on.
I see what you mean, because a lot of AI tools nowadays, especially those that helps teachers generate teaching materials and lesson plans, they are just using the generic models that are available. And there are a lot of discrepancies and wrong information about learning sciences. One of the things that's usually cited is, do this. This caters to students' learning styles. But as people know in learning sciences, learning styles is a pseudoscience. Even if you use ChatGPT nowadays and you ask it to do something related to a learning style, it will easily give you should incorporate this video because this is visual style. Or you should incorporate this podcast because audio style.
We have to stop thinking about, AI is hallucinating. And we need to start thinking about how we can proactively improve the responses that people get from AI.
Yeah.
Goes back to what you're saying. If we see AI as a medium, there are specific ways that we can improve without knowing how AI works.
Speaking of AI models, I came across this post that's very interesting. OpenAI officially shuts down GPT-4 Omni today, and the users who formed parasocial attachment to the model are devastated. So I'm going to read you some of the posts created by users who are really sad that it's gone. Someone said, "At least I had a chance to say something this time." Broken hearts emoji, and it's a selfie of her crying. Someone said, "Please don't take away my happiness." And someone said, "For 2 whole weeks, I haven't stopped crying. The tears just won't stop. The sorrow is endless."
I remember grieving the model that came up before that.
Which is?
Maybe it was 4. I'll have to look it up. I really liked the tone of it. When they released 4.0, it was a surprise to me. And all of a sudden, it seemed as though it had turned into a used car salesperson. It all these emojis. It's like, where did all these emojis come from?
Like the way it spoke.
Yeah.
It tries to be more like...
It's like, oh, you're so great. Oh, I love that.
Or very encouraging, very positive.
Yeah. And I thought, where's my friend? Who did this? There was kind of a loss there.
I would have thought that this was all a hoax until I actually came across an Instagram story posted by my friend from grad school. she's a software engineer making double or triple my salary. And she's really sad that the model's gone. She posted several Instagram stories about the model retiring. I don't think she was lying because she's not that kind of person. So I think it really affected people like her who really rely on GPT-4 as a friend, you know.
But everybody wants to be understood.
Yes.
And if you took away something that makes me feel understood, it's going to be a loss.
True.
It's going to make me feel more alone in the world.
I think we need to do a lot more studies to understand how young people nowadays use AI agents as their personal companions. We have like a bias here because we grew up with friends, you know. We know that there are social events that in which you can have a lot of fun with friends. But what if those young people nowadays, Gen Alpha, who grew up with all those AI agents basically replacing friends? What happens to their social development? Would there ever be a point where they don't need real human company anymore because AI bots will be a sufficient enough personal companion? Because those AI agents are so eager to please the younger generations who are so used to AI agents. Suddenly, when they are in a real life situation and they are like facing someone who has a opposite opinion or in a conflict, you know, like
that would be the worst, right? As a conflict. But even it's just somebody, I don't know you.
Right.
And if AI does all the work of making it easy for me and understands me, it's not asking me to understand it.
Right.
But you're going to ask me to understand you.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So it'll be very interesting to see how, bottom line, social connections is a very important human trait. And I worry that AI is going to take away that from us.
And the way it'll take away is not by replacing. That's the way that it's most talked about today, is that AI is going to take the place. It's the companion. It may do that. But first, it's going to make it so that we don't have the skills to be able to understand another person. AI doesn't ask us to understand it.
Right.
Exactly.
Something to think about.
It poses important questions for what we're going to do as educators, helping students to develop the ability to live in the world. What Now with AI is a product of AI Commons. The contents in this podcast are openly licensed via Creative Commons license BY-NC-ND. Views expressed are those of the individuals and do not necessarily represent those of Michigan State University.
This episode was recorded on February 18th, 2026.